Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to As at Thy Portals Also Death. This is Whitman's tribute poem to his mother. Now, we've commented on Whitman's love of his mother, his adoration of his mother, his respect for his mother. And here we're going to pick up with this poem that was written at her death, which was a very difficult time in Whitman's life, as we've already commented on because of other poems. Now, this is poem number 6 of the 17 of Songs of Parting, and the obviousness and the imminence of impending death is a central part of this poem. That is to say, Whitman will begin to do more and more of this as the deathbed edition of Leaves of Grass comes to its close. This idea that death is coming. And of course, the first word of Leaves of Grass, as we've commented so many times, is the word come, that invitation word. And yet, also there's a sense of maybe impending, uh-oh, it's coming. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, all the way from that very first introductory word come, up through inscriptions, up through and including a set of introductory comments to parting, and then we just finished with Song at Sunset. Now, our Nortons that we've been referencing will tell us that this poem was an elegy to the poet's mother, Louisa van Velser Whitman, who died May the 23rd, 1873, in her 78th year, a period when Whitman himself, as the first line intimates, felt perturbations of death. The poem is one of the 17 new to Leaves of Grass. Now, I find this a remarkably touching poem, and I find it as well compelling that from his mother's death, he begins to derive concerns about his own death, and not just his own death, but the death possibly of democracy itself. Watch the politics that gets played here as well. It's quite remarkable. 8 poems away from this poem, we're going to see a poem called Portals, and that's the only other use of this word in all of Leaves of Grass. As at thy portals, also death. And of course, think about portal as an entryway. We're obviously thinking about the 2 moments in Homer's Odyssey as well as Virgil's Aeneid when there's going through some kind of gate or something. We think of Dante, don't we, in the Divine Commedia, especially Inferno. We've given lectures on all of that at learnstrong.net. That idea about the door, right? As at thy portals also death, entering thy sovereign, notice the use of the word thy to make it reverential, dim, illimitable grounds. Illimitable gets used one and only one time in Leaves of Grass, and it's right here. To memories of my mother. Again, 78 years old. She will die on the 23rd of May, 1873. By the way, Whitman dies at 72, right? To the divine blending. You'll remember this word from Proud Music of the Storm 1. Maternity. To her, buried and gone, yet buried not, gone not from me. Now, this ambivalence of death is a central part of the reading of this poem. The paradoxical nature of death, we might say. In other words, is death the end or is it the beginning? Now, obviously, we're back to Plato's Phaedo. We could a lecture at learnstrong.net. We're playing a similar game. Notice in parenthetics, I see again the calm, benighted face, fresh face, and beautiful still. By the way, this is the only use of benighted that gets used in all Leaves of Grass, and here it is, kind, gentle. I think Whitman really enjoyed the word still. And I think, as we've said, T.S. Eliot learned the use of this word, I think, from his study of Whitman. What is it that he says? We must be still and still moving. Notice here the word still. I sit by the form in the coffin. This is one of those moments when Whitman is so personal, and all of us who have gone through this process of saying goodbye, farewell to someone that we love. I kiss and kiss convulsingly again the sweet old lips, the cheeks, the closed eyes in the coffin, in parenthetic. Compelling, right? And it takes us back to a child went forth in his celebration of his mother there. Only now we're at the end. To her, the ideal woman, and by the way, that phrase only gets used one time, and it's here in Leaves of Grass. Practical, spiritual, of all of earth, life, love, to me, the best. Again, a beautiful tribute poem to his mother. I grave a monumental line. We have commented on the ways that Whitman loves to use nouns as verbs. Notice here, grave as in engrave, right? I grave a monumental line before I go. Uh-oh. And then notice then, all of a sudden, how this poem kind of turns as he begins to realize his mother will die, but soon he also must leave. And then he says it, amid these songs, and set a tombstone here. I find it amazing that tombstone gets used one and only one time in All Leaves of Grass, and it's right here at this moment. And his use of the word here to make it central to this notion of, I'm going to do something that will allow for my mother to be remembered. Well, as we finish, of course, at 2a, I think the argument he's making is that death can never really take those away from us that we love if we know how to understand their departure correctly. I love the word choice of several of the words that get used only one time. I mean, tombstone gets used once only. I find that fascinating. At 3a, we mentioned Plato's Phaedo, but I'd love for us to go to John Donne, and valediction forbidding mourning does come to mind. But how about Holy Sonnet 10? Donne, 1633, no question. Whitman, a great lover of this poem. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure, then from thee much more must flow, and soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls' delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison war and sickness dwelt, and poppy or charms can make us sleep as well and better than thy stroke. Why swellest thou then? One short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. I think that Whitman is drawing on a poem like this. Finally, at 3b, how are we going to own a poem like this? Well, who have you lost that you most miss? And is death in the end for you the end, or is it rather the beginning? Or as T.S. Eliot will remind us, in our beginning is our end, and in our end is our beginning. Thank you.